So we all know what is source code management. So because multiple people's working on a project, so everybody will write their own module code. So but we have to keep all this code at single place, so that if we wanted to make a product, so we can take the code from that single place. So to manage different versions of the code, also what were the changes that were happened yesterday. So maintaining the revision system on the source code changes. So we use source code management tools. And these are the prerequisites for the setting up continuous integration. So we will see what is continuous integration. So before that, we will try to understand the prerequisites. So you all know what is source code management system. So there are different source code management systems: Subversion, VSS, CVS, Perforce, ClearCase, JIT. So we need one of these tools knowledge for setting up the continuous integration. So what is build? So we have the source code available. So from different developers, we wanted to integrate all the source code and to make a single package that will be delivered to the customers. So the process of making the source code to the deliverable involves some set of steps. So these steps can be automated using these build tools. So there are different kinds of build tools available. So Yant, Maven, Shell, Batch. So MS build in case of .NET projects. If it's Java projects, we use Yant or Maven. So the build is nothing but the process of creating the deliverable from the source code. So this process involves multiple steps. These steps can be automated using the build tools. So okay, we are doing the build. So when we do the build, so before we deliver something to the customer, or so that answers, so that puts some different questions. So okay, so before delivering the customer, we need to test it, so that we need to make the build. So okay, we will do the build whenever we need to test it, and then test and then deliver. Suppose what will happen if you do the build at the end of, suppose if a project takes 2 months, so if you do the build at the end of the 2 months, so what will happen? Because hundreds of people are, multiple teams will be developing, so there might be more chances to make the build fail. So there might not be different understandings about the development. They might develop on their own way. So if you are doing the build at the end of the project, so you will have the issues. So to answer these issues, the concept that come into picture is continuous integration. So the continuous integration is a development practice. It suggests to do the build more frequently, means integrate the code of the teams more frequently using the automated build tools. So it helps us in developing more quality and reducing the integration issues that might occur late in the process. So you will get the faster feedback, and you can fix the identified issues at the earliest, so that you will not have any issues during the release times. So identifying the issues at the earliest saves a lot of time in getting the design issues at the end. So these are the important benefits of the continuous integration process. So by definition, continuous integration is a software development practice where members of each team integrate their work more frequently, that at least daily, so leading to multiple integrations per day. So the ideal suggestion in continuous integration practices, do build for each and every commit, so that if there are any issues identified with the commit, you can immediately revert the check-in and fix it later. So is that clear what is continuous integration? Okay. So Jenkins is one of the tool that supports this continuous integration process. So in this session we will see how to install Jenkins and what are the features that Jenkins has, and how to configure Jenkins system, and how to configure tabs, how to manage builds. So this is how this continuous integration system works. So we will have a source code repository, so where multiple developers check in their source code to the source code repository. This continuous integration systems like Jenkins will continuously monitor the source code repository, and whenever the changes happens, it can start the build automatically, and the artifacts will be generated and they will be shared from the continuous integration system dashboard. So these artifacts can be archived. So continuous integration, apart from continuous integration, there is a concept called continuous testing. So with some set of automated tests, so we can test the product continuously. So once the build is completed, we can run the automated tests to see the quality of the build. So those continuous integration systems have the plugins to publish the test reports. So this diagram represents how the continuous integration system works. So there will be a central source code management system, and developers will be doing the check-ins to the source code repository. So continuous integration system talks with the source code repository and gets the source code and run the builds using the build tool, and publish the artifacts to the dashboard. So if there are any automated tests configured, those test cases will be executed, and the reports will be published. So you can download Jenkins, is available as a WAR file. So you can download Jenkins from the Jenkins site, jenkins.org. Once you download this WAR file can be deployed in any one of the application servers like Tomcat, JBoss or WebLogic. or you can run without application server in a standalone mode using this command. So once the server is started, you can access the dashboard from the browser with the IP address of the machine and the port number on which Jenkins server is running. So from Jenkins.org, so you can download the latest Jenkins WAR file. So I have downloaded it and I kept it in a training folder in my local machine. So from the command line I will be going to training folder. So I will be running the command. So you should have Java installed on your machine. So this will start the Jenkins system. So by default it will start on port 8080. So here you can see the port number on which it is starting. Okay, Jenkins is fully up and running. Now you can access the dashboard. It seems I was having my earlier Jenkins. So when you start Jenkins, by default Jenkins will do all its operations from user's home directory. So it will create a folder called .jenkins. So inside that it will create all the configurations and it will check out all the projects and everything. So you can by default it will be in the user's home directory. You can change this by setting the environment variable Jenkins_home. So if you set that environment variable to the different folder, so Jenkins will do all its operations from that folder. So you can set the environment variable and you can start the Jenkins. So it will point to the new location. So this is how Jenkins dashboard will look. So this is how we can start the Jenkins system and view the dashboard. So Jenkins supports different features apart from continuous integration. So this building the project continuously and scheduling the builds are part of continuous integration process. And apart from that, so it will provide the change set information so that you can view the changes that are happened from the previous build to the current build. So in case of build failures or in case of some test failures, you can easily identify what is the source code, source files that were modified. So instead of going to the subversion log and identifying the issue, you can directly check from the Jenkins dashboard. So what are the changes that were happened from the previous build to the current build, and you can view the build logs from the dashboard itself. So in case of build failure, you can directly look at the logs and you can fix. So because you can access these logs from anywhere, so you need not connect to the build machine and check the logs. You can access the logs directly from the dashboard. In case of build failures, build failures can be notified via mails or RSS. So mostly people will configure mails, and it has the ability to publish the test reports. So by default it will publish JUnit kind of test reporting. So if you have a different using different test framework than JUnit, so we need to install the corresponding plugin in the Jenkins system. So we will see what is plugin and how to install plugins, so in the future sessions. So apart from this doing builds, and so it will provide the trends of the builds, how the build is happening for the past few builds or for the past few days, so that you will know whether the build is consistent or not. Similar kind of trends will be given for test cases or whatever all the reports that will be published, like static code analysis reports or code coverage reports. So all these kinds of reports, it will give you a trends, and it has mechanism called master slave setup. So you can, so because if you configure Jenkins for 10 projects or 20 projects, so one system cannot handle all the builds for the 20 projects because it might be delayed. So we need the build happen immediately and we need faster feedback. So we don't want to wait till other projects builds are complete to see the result of my build. So we wanted to distribute the load of these builds to different machines so we can get most faster feedback. So to distribute the load to different machines, we can set up the master slave model. So one Jenkins installation acts as a master, so it can make all other available systems as slaves, and it can distribute the builds to those slaves so that you can get faster response. So these are the main features that are supported, and these plugins, there are 1000+ plugins available for different features to integrate with your source code analysis reports or code coverage reports or different kinds of build triggers or build promotions. So there, for each and every concept that we see in the release management process, so there are so many plugins available with Jenkins. So based on requirement, we can identify the suitable plugin and we can install it. So we will see that during demo. Yeah, this is we just discussed. So with configuring Jenkins system configuration means, so we might be using build tools like Ant for all projects or for some projects. So we can configure that Ant installation in at global level so that it can be accessible to all the projects. So we need not configure the properties that are common to all projects at each project. So we can configure those properties at system level. So that is where the system, suppose if we are sending the mails from the Jenkins machine in case of build failure, so we need not configure the mail server details in each and every project. We will configure those details in the system configuration. And you can set up the security, and means you can provide the access control to the Jenkins dashboard. So for anonymous users, you need not give the permissions to the build or configure the project, so they can just view the dashboard. So for different kind of roles, we can set up different permissions. Yeah, just now we discussed about plugins. And manage nodes means that's what master slave setup. In Jenkins terminology, they will call them as nodes. All slaves will be called as nodes, and master node and slave nodes. So you can manage all these nodes from the master dashboard. So there are different types of jobs we can configure in Jenkins. Freestyle job means, so this Ant based build script projects are configured as freestyle. So if your build tool is Maven, we will configure Maven type of project. So this external job is if some process is running outside the Jenkins environment and we wanted to monitor it from the Jenkins dashboard. So in such situations, we will configure the external job. Multi-configuration job. So if a project that needs to be built under different environments or different versions of a dependent softwares, suppose if my project needs to be built with different versions of Java, so in such situations also we will configure multi-configuration project. So a project need to be built under multiple configurations. It can be, the configuration can be a software or OS. So we will configure multi-configuration project. So we will configure the freestyle project in the demo and we will see. So managing builds. So from dashboard you can manage builds. You can suppose if a build is delivered, so we can, if we are doing the builds daily, so in the history there will be a lot of builds. So we don't want to keep all the builds archived. So we need not maintain daily builds. So after some time we can delete those, discard those builds. So those kind of build management is available. So that you can configure, so okay, I don't want builds that are older than 10 days or 50 days. So all those builds will be discarded. So the 50 days back I might have builds that are released. So I don't want to lose those release builds. So that I can configure at build level. Okay, this build is important. Don't discard this build. So we can configure such kind of things, and you can view the changes that were happened from build to build, and each build artifacts can be downloaded. If it is not discarded, you can download it from the dashboard, and you can see the trends and the tagging of the builds. So once a build is released, so in the release management process, configuration management will tag that revision number of the build, so that in future if any fix needs to be given on that released version, so the source code will be taken from the tag and the fix will be given. So this tagging of the builds can be done from the dashboard automatically. So okay, if this is the release build, tag this build. So it will internally create the tag in the subversion. So that can be used later. So these are all features that we will be seeing demo in the tomorrow's session. So how to set up security, how to give permissions to the users. So all these kind of things we will see in the demo. So I hope you understand what is continuous integration and what Jenkins will do. So if you have any questions, you can ask me those questions. So otherwise we will, yeah, you can ask me the questions. So otherwise in tomorrow's session, we will look at the demo. So each feature a demo one by one. So you will understand better than presentation. Is that fine? So you can just download the WAR file and you can, I will share this presentation in the Dropbox. So you can try to download the WAR file and start the Jenkins dashboard. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.